Well, let me begin. Just thank you for each of you being here today. I do appreciate your presence and engagement. Is good for our community for Aurora. So I just want to go ahead and start the meeting. I appreciate everybody. So do we need to approval for last time meeting or minutes, or how would that work?
Yes, just follow the agenda. So you called the meeting to order. So we're going to approve the minutes. So you asked the committee, do you approve the minutes of January 15th?
All right. Who would be?
I'll have you do that since you're the chair.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just go ahead, approve the minutes from the last time. So if any objection on that?
There's no objections and I approve the minutes.
Copy. Any announcement? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Okay. Any announcements today? Okay. Okay, so how about new items? Do we have any new items that we need to discuss or add?
The Chair Kassaw, the new item is going to be, we're going to talk about, there's no new items, but we're going to go to 4A. So just, that's what we're going to talk about. Right.
Perfect. So let's just move on to civic engagement and commission status on 4A. And any discussion on that?
None from me.
So 4A, civic engagement commission status, declare membership and scope clarity, council member. Okay.
Oh, Chair Kassaw, are you on the right agenda? Because we're supposed to be talking about the housing strategy updates and 5-year consolidated plan. Are you on the right agenda?
I am looking at paper.
Because that's what I have for 4A.
Okay. All right. I think I probably have the.
And I'm working on getting this up. Oh, sorry to interrupt,
okay.
Councilman.
Perfect. Let's just put them on the screen. That'll be great.
Okay, fantastic.
I think I don't have that yet. Right, there's the agenda. All right, yep, I do not have that. Okay, let's have a discussion on this. 4A, housing strategy update and a 5-year consolidate plan update. Any discussion? Open, the floor is open.
Good morning, Chair Kassaw. My name is Sarah Pulliam. I'm the manager of community development, and I have a presentation for you.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead.
You're welcome. All right. Today, I'm just going to tell you about our housing strategy background, give you some of our achievements for 2024, talk about some of our goals for and focus for 2025, and tell you a little bit about the 5-year consolidated plan and the funding sources that we receive from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Next slide, please. So our housing strategy was adopted in 2020, and it was focused on balancing and sustainable housing portfolio in Aurora. We wanted to expand the inventory of housing. We found that we have about a 7,500 deficit in affordable housing units. And then we want to strengthen the local economy and expand employment opportunities in Aurora as well. Next slide, please. So over the last few years, our housing strategy goals have been, there were 11 goals, and we've worked on 7 of those pretty extensively over the last year. One was to create a housing trust fund, so we're still working towards that. A waiver of reduction of development goals, development fees, we're working on that as well. Provide infrastructure improvements to manufactured home parks, another focus. ID and set aside publicly owned land for mixed income housing. pilot innovative housing projects for rental and homeownership, partner in the development of affordable housing. We've worked to connect low and moderate income residents to contractors developing affordable housing as well, and partner in the development of a home share program. Next slide, please. So as I was speaking before, the housing strategy identified a gap of 7,500 rental units for folks earning less than $25,000 a year. And those we found that 12,000 families below 50% of the AMI were also cost burdened and needing units as well. And this was based on 2019 HUD data. Approximately 19,800 cost burden renter households with incomes up to 50% as well. Next slide, please. So in 2024, our housing strategy focus was to implement the housing study recommendations to create new funding revenue. We're still working on that. We did have a housing study completed in 2024, and we have strategies from that we are bringing to council soon. We also have brought the Prop 123. We said that we would focus on that when we're working on getting 6 programs created through the DOLA and OEDIT. And those look like we're working on getting funding. We've gotten our first couple of DOLA projects. One was a planning grant back in 2022, and the second we just received was a homelessness program grant from DOLA. We just received the notice that we've been awarded some funds. We want to strengthen our current housing programs. The things that we have ongoing and complete right now are housing counseling. That's ongoing, and we've been bringing not only our English, but we bring Spanish classes as well. We've retained a minor rehab program partner. We were doing those in-house, but it was difficult to keep up with the pace, so we outsourced that, and that has increased our pace of repairing and preserving homes here in Aurora. We've expanded our community investment financing rounds. We use our private activity bonds and our U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funds to do that community investment. And we're currently working on expanding our community engagement and partnerships. And then we have to implement HUD required planning. Right now, we have a consultant to do the analysis of impediments, our 5-year consolidated plan, and our first annual action plan for 2025. Next slide, please. So some of our achievements over the last couple of years, last year exactly, was we had 4 groundbreakings and grand openings, which was really exciting. We administered the Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program. We did submit a HUD Pro grant application for $7 million for a homeownership site here in the city, but we were unsuccessful in that grant. We created a financial counseling program for the housing counseling team, and we hired a consultant to complete the analysis of impediments, 5-year consolidated plan, and annual action plan. All federal and local agreements have been updated to protect our funds. In our housing development side, we've created a professional service agreement with Artaic to carry out the minor home repairs. We working with local banks and lenders to create relationships for educational opportunities. In our housing counseling, we've received 2 additional HUD counseling grants for 2023 and 2024. We received both of those this past year. We increased our housing unit pipeline to 1,915 units, so that's pretty substantial. And then in communications and community engagement, we've worked with Aurora TV and we've had news coverage over our repair programs. We've expanded developer education and brought developers and nonprofits to the Citizens Advisory Committee on Housing and Community Development to present their organization and potential projects. We've partnered with other departments and divisions to provide creative solutions. And then we've expanded our social media presence, highlighting what we do for residents across the city. Next slide, please. Here's some of our impact. In our emergency mortgage assistance program, we received 150 applications, and we provided assistance to 96 of those with $1.6 million in funds. We did reverse mortgage counseling for 45 Colorado residents. We did pre-purchase counseling for 13 folks. We did foreclosure prevention for 11 residents. We did first-time home buyer education for 347 residents. We did our community investment financing. We received 13 applications last year. We did fund 8 of those applications to create 339 units, and that was a $29.6 million investment. On our minor home repair program, we received 8 applications, but we were able to complete 10 with that. We received 18 applications on our repair programs. We've done 8 of the 10 on our minor home. We've done 2 of the 3 we've received on home repair, and we've done 4 of the 5 received on essential home repair. So we're still working on a few of those, and we'll close those out in 2025. So that is a big impact. We have done $31.5 million in assistance in creating and preserving affordable housing here in the city. Next slide, please. We did do some land banking. Our newest land banking was we purchased 1455 Emporia Street. That actually was approved by AHA for sale, but we closed on that last week on the 14th. So we now have that piece of land. That will be our first land banking RFP for 2025. We do have an affordable homeownership site on Adalia Court that we're working on an RFQ for that. That will come out later this year. We are serving persons experiencing homelessness, and we have opened the Navigation Center for Emergency Shelter, and it has been at capacity due to this cold weather. And then we did do a local planning capacity grant. That grant was closing. It was received in 2023 from DOLA. Next slide, please. So our 2025 goals that we're going to work on is Proposition 123. We're going to be seeking some grant funding. The 1271 planning grant, as I indicated earlier, was $112,500 from DOLA, and then we had a $37,500 match. That one is the final documents were sent in January of 2025. We'll be focusing on our land banking, home ownership opportunities with the Idalia Court, down payment assistance programs. We're working on a grant application now, and then implementation of a financial counseling program, which will begin actually this month, and update the housing strategy for 2025 and 2030, including new state legislation. Next slide, please. So I want to tell you a little bit about a 5-year consolidated plan. It is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It includes 4 grants, but the city of Aurora only receives 3 of those. Denver receives the 4th grant, being the largest metro statistical area city. And so we received Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and then the Emergency Solutions Grant. We are what's called an entitlement community, and that means that we have an allocation every year. However, in order to receive our allocation, we have to prepare an annual action plan. And then we are required to do various things. We have to engage with the community. We have to develop a budget. We have to prioritize community needs. We do that through that community engagement and doing an analysis of things that are happening, like the housing situations, market analysis, those kinds of things. And then we have to monitor the compliance of any subrecipients or contractors that we provide funding to. And we have to monitor our own compliance, and we have to report performance back to HUD. Next slide, please. So the current community needs from the 2020 to 2024 grant were affordable housing, prevention of for people experiencing homelessness, prevention and support for people experiencing homelessness, human and social needs to address poverty, economic development, and public improvement and infrastructure. Next slide, please. So how a 5-year consolidated plan works is we will submit the 5-year consolidated plan in August of 2025. It will include an annual action plan. So the 5-year plan will tell us the strategic plan for the next 5 years. Excuse me. And then each year we'll tell HUD, hey, we know that we have these goals that we have to, or objectives we have to meet. This is what we're going to focus on for the first year. So that's what the annual action plan will tell. And then we are planning to submit each project in August 2025, our second year in July of 2026, the third, so on and so forth, trying to get them in a little bit earlier once we receive our funding. Because we have an odd fiscal year that's a calendar year, we don't receive our funding until like May. So 5 months of our grant year has already gone by when we receive how much funding we're going to get. So it's a very odd situation. And then so we're submitting our plan after like 7 months after the year has already started. Next slide, please. This is what our funding history looks like over the last several years. You can see in 2020 when COVID hit, we received an influx of COVID funding, but since then things have settled down and we've gone back to our more normal numbers, and we're utilizing those to the best of our ability. We still have a little bit of COVID funding on the ESG side, on the CDBG side, and we're using that to prepare the next 5-year plan and be prepared for any kind of event like COVID happening again. Next slide, please. So because we don't know what our plan for the next 5 years is, we just go ahead and what we call, we assume level funding. So what we're doing right now for our 25 annual action plan is just assuming the level funding, which in 24 we received 2.6 million in CDBG, 1 million in home, and 230,000 in ESG. Next slide, please. So CDBG is the most flexible of our funding sources, but it has to meet a national objective. And those national objectives are principally benefit low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention or elimination of slum and blight, and or meet a need having a particular urgency. And just to give you an idea of the third bullet, it has to be a presidential emergency. It can't be just anything we set aside. So recipient types, I've given those here to you as low and moderate income persons, low and moderate income areas, nonprofits, and for-profit businesses can receive community development block grant funds. And then we have some program examples that are eligible, such as housing rehabilitation, land banking, housing counseling, which is our public service. We do have a public service cap of 15%, so we cannot exceed 15% of our grant on public services. And then economic development, and the economic development must result in the hiring of low and moderate income persons. Next slide, please. Our current community needs, just to give you an idea of low and moderate income, what it looks like. This was our 2024 AMI, and so 80% of the area median income for a household of 4 people was $102,650. Next slide, please. So our home investment partnerships program is not as flexible as CDBG. 100% of the funds must be used on housing activities, and we do have to set aside 15% of our grant for community housing development or organizations, which are known as CHODOs. We can provide funding to nonprofits, developers, and low-income individuals seeking financial assistance. That's only for a down payment assistance program. And then eligible programs and services can include affordable housing development, down payment assistance, and we can do, community housing development organization operating assistance, but it cannot exceed $50,000. So we can help them, ramp up their programs, but again, cannot exceed $50,000. Next slide, please. And our ESG, which is the most stringent of all of the grants and the smallest, is it has to be used for to prevent homelessness or to assist people experiencing homelessness. Individuals cannot receive funds. It is only to go through nonprofits. And then some of the eligible programs are affordable housing development, down payment assistance. I'm sorry, that should not say that. Some of the things should be like shelter operations. That should be rapid rehousing or homelessness prevention programs. So next slide, please. So our consolidated plan timeline is right now we're working on updating our citizen participation plan here in-house while our consultant is doing the 5-year consolidated plan out on outside. And then we are working with our community engagement folks here in-house to do the community engagement part. We are working on education opportunities for the Citizens Advisory Committee on Housing and Community Development. We're working with the consultant to put together the public input meetings. And then in March through May, they plan on distributing surveys, doing some resident focus groups, and meeting the stakeholders. And then our consultant will do a public review. They have to have a 30-day comment period on the 5-year consolidated plan and the annual action plan. And then they have to have a public hearing, which will be held at the Citizens Advisory Committee on Housing and Community Development. And then we do final adoption. We plan to submit in July, if that's we hope, but we are planning for August. We have an August 15th deadline that we must meet. And then January 1st of 2026, we will implement the action plan. Next slide, please. So here, for current community needs, folks can mail comments to the City of Aurora Housing and Community Services, Community Development Division. We have an email that they can send information to, or they can come speak at CHD. Next slide, please. And then if they want to contact anyone, I've given all my contact information here, and everyone involved in our department and in our division as well in community development. Next slide, please. Are there any questions?
Chair Kassaw, I have a couple of questions if I could ask.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Sarah, thank you so much for the presentation. The couple questions that I have is regarding the federal funding that we always apply for. How do we know about, do you factor in what the current administration is doing? Because they are looking at federal funding, and are we guaranteed this federal funding, or are we going to have to reevaluate how we're with these funding streams because of possible maybe freezing of funds or cuts of funds? I'm just being proactive and trying to understand that part. Are we guaranteed these funds for at least 2025, or are we going to have to relook at things as they go through, as the federal government is going through different departments, agencies, and looking at funding and possible freezing funding and things like that? So that's my first question.
You're correct. We are currently being very proactive in case those funds are cut. We have been working with finance, looking at how far we can go on cash flow, given the current administration potentially freezing funds and or cutting the funds completely.
Okay. My second question is, I know that from what I've been looking at and gathering from the current administration, economic development is really high on, the list of if you can put things. So is that something that when you're looking at this strategy, I know you guys have the strategy written, but is it a way that you can adapt the strategy, say for if the funds are going to be challenged or any way or frozen, that maybe you can put some of the priorities within a economic development type of arena where you could possibly make that argument, that reasons of why we're needing the funding, if that makes sense of what I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am, it does make sense.
Okay.
We plan to do very broad strategies, so like an economic development strategy, a housing strategy, a, an infrastructure strategy, that kind of thing, so that way we can be very, very flexible.
Okay, and then my last question, Chair Kassaw, just that I wanted to ask is, so you have this strategy, and I was on housing a long time ago, but you adapted according to what are the growth of the city, what's happening in the city. I know you might put older adults in there. I mean, because there's actually an RFP that's going to eventually come out for older adults. How is all of that stuff implemented in the strategy? So this isn't just, this is kind of a living document. Is that true, or is this the document and every year you evaluate it?
It will be a very living document, yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have, Chair Kassaw.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you, Sarah. Great presentation. And so, as you know, as you said earlier, Aurora is a diverse and growing city with growth comes both challenges and opportunities. We must work together, city councils and community members, advocates, and business leaders, so we can develop sustainable solutions that balance development with affordable, ensuring that no one is behind, no one is left behind. So thank you so much for that. And my question to you is, you say we provide 347 training classes for the first-time home buyers. So that is 0 application. So why is that? I mean, people not they don't know about the program, or so what is, we give a class 347, but no application. Can you explain that to me, please?
I can explain that. Yes, we have not had an active down payment assistance program in several years now, and that is due to the cost of housing, pardon me, and the big gap in income. It doesn't work. The math doesn't work on getting them enough money to provide down payment assistance and a house that they can afford the monthly payment. The math doesn't work right now due to housing prices.
All right. Is there any question? Other open for the question or comments?
I have none. Thank you, Chair Kassaw.
Perfect. It's just so if there any objection, we can go ahead and move the next item.
Chair Kassaw, this was, I guess, informational, or will this be, Sarah, let me just clarify, will this need to go to full council? This was just informational?
Informational only.
Okay, so we don't have anything to move forward on this item, Chair Kassaw.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for clarification. So what are the, okay, any other matter that we need to be discussed here on item 5A?
None from me.
All right. Okay, so do we have any other agenda items that we got to bring it over here, or otherwise we're gonna be, I think this is pretty much it, right?
You have to do, see if there's any updates, Chair Kassaw, from the community members.
Perfect.
Is there any community members online? So they might have some reports.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I encourage everybody to say something, and the floor is open, and thoughtful and discussion is welcome right now. So thank you. So
there doesn't look like
for the public. Yeah. So who controls that? Yeah.
Well, for the update for any community members, you just ask, is there any community members online? Is there any community members that would like to speak on something? This is the vice chair. Okay. Okay, don't hear anything. So, oh, I hear somebody.
It appears
Yeah.
to be all employees. This is Andrew speaking, just so y'all
Okay,
know.
thank you, Andrew. Okay, so Chair Kassaw, with there's no updates from community members, then you can adjourn the meeting and ask and say when the next meeting will be.
All right. So when is the next meeting? Can Andrew, can you give me a time, dates?
Yes,
when is
so
it?
the next Horns meeting is going to be March 19th. It's going to be the same time, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. unless the committee has any changes that need to be made.
And then Chair Kassaw, can I just ask a question to Andrew or to city staff? What will be the agenda items that we will be speaking upon? And I know the chair has to approve those, but what will be the items that we will be talking about at the next meeting? Can city staff give me an update, or has that been decided, or?
I can go ahead and field that. So we
Okay.
do have a living agenda tracker, and I can go ahead and show you what
Okay.
might be on the docket for next week. It is subject to change depending on what the committee wants to hear. So I'll go ahead and share that right now. One moment.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Andrew.
Well, thank you so much. So as we concluded today's meeting, I want to express my sincerely gratitude to each of you for your time and dedication. So we'll have the next meeting on March 19 at 8:30 via online. So, and we'll be concluding our meeting.
Okay, thank you for showing me the tracker, Andrew, and then Chair Kassaw will have to approve these items. Is that correct? And you'll go over these with him to see if this is, I mean, I'm looking at the 19th. I have to put my glasses on here.
Okay.
So we're gonna have the YVP update, the opioid abatement,
Yeah.
homeless navigation, all of these. Is that correct, or these are just ideas? Or are we gonna have all of these on that agenda? I just need to be clear
These are
for myself.
proposed, Councilmember Lawson, and we'll work with the chair to decide
Okay.
if he wants to have all or some or all of these, but these are what we're proposing as staff, so we can
Okay.
work with him on timeliness and whether he wants to have those, Chair Kassaw.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. All
Sure.
right, thank you. Thank you so much, Chair Kassaw, and you did a good meeting. You'll get acclimated to
Thank
it.
you.
You did a
My
great
first
job.
meeting, and appreciate for being in a patient with me.
No
All right.
problem.
Thank you much. I'll see you around.
Okay, bye-bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everyone.
Thank you.